Steven, this has to be Mark Davis's worst nightmare of a Super Bowl in his own stadium, right?
Yeah, if the Chiefs and Broncos playing in a Super Bowl was possible, then I think that would be the number one. But they didn't they didn't end on good terms with the Niners, right? The way that Davis left the Bay Area and the Niners kind of stuck it to them with their whole "faithful to the Bay" slogan and all that stuff.
Yeah, I would say even if in some weird reality that the Chiefs and Broncos could play each other in the Super Bowl, this
Yeah,
is the worst. This is
yeah.
by far the worst. And I know Raider fans are not happy today for good reason. But we will get to it all because I know the Bay Area is happy about the Niners making it. And then you got the Chiefs. And then you got the Raider fans. We will get to it all today on Just Your Opinion, man. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa. Don't shrug, Stephen. The Raider fans matter in this whole equation. It's their stadium.
Do they?
Yes.
Well, I don't think they do. I mean, it's their stadium, but is it really their stadium? Allegiant doesn't feel like the Raiders stadium. It feels like Las Vegas's stadium still. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
No, it 100% does because I was there for the Niner Raider game a year ago, and
Right.
it did not feel like
Yeah.
the Raider stadium.
Feels like it's a
Well,
great sports venue to
yes.
host, like, I don't know, the Pac-12 championship or the Super Bowl concerts. I'm sure a UFC event is going to get played there soon. Maybe maybe a UFC event has already been maybe it has already played host to a UFC card, but it feels like a great sports venue. It doesn't feel like the Raiders venue. Like Levi
Yeah.
Stadium, it's even though Levi Stadium is a great venue for everything else. Obviously, you got the WrestleMania, the Super Bowl, various concerts. You got the World Cup coming up there in 2026. But it feels like it's the Niners Stadium. The Raiders Stadium does not feel like it's the Raiders Stadium.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you because when you went to the Coliseum, it felt like this is the Raiders. And when I went to Allegiant, this felt like this is Vegas's stadium with the Raiders occupied inside. There's like a history of Vegas, and they have like, like a mannequin of Elvis and, Ted, who's my guy that announced Dylan Parham being drafted?
Oh God.
Ted Knight? No,
No,
not
no, no,
not
no. Don,
not
it
Ted.
wasn't Wayne Newton, was it?
Wayne Newton. Wayne Newton.
Newton.
Excuse me. Dylan Parham from Mississippi. It feels like it doesn't feel like the Raiders spot.
Right.
But and I'm going. So let me just tell everybody that I will be going to Media Row that week for KMBR. So which is
Nice.
fine. We'll, I think what we'll do for the next 2 weeks, if you're cool with this, Steven, we'll do a little coordinating on the fly here for everybody. We'll do the show today because there's a Warrior game tomorrow. We'll come back on Thursday. How's Thursday sound this week, Steven?
Sounds all right to me.
Okay, and then next week I'm not flying out till Tuesday morning, so I could do the show next Monday, and then I'm coming back Friday night, so we could do the show Saturday before the Super Bowl. Well, I'm not staying for the actual game.
Right.
God forbid. No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And you know what? To be honest, I don't want to go to the game because this is weird for me. 100%. Raider fans, I feel your pain. This is going to be awkward for me. I don't feel like Vegas is the Raiders' home, but it is now. And for both those teams to be there feels very weird to me because it's not good for the Raiders to have either of these teams win at Allegiant because of the symbolism. Despite of what we feel about the stadium, it is supposed to be the Raiders' new home. And for either of these teams to win a Super Bowl before the Raiders even have a home playoff game there, just kind of spits in the eye of Mark Davis, to tell you the truth, which I don't mind. But
well, isn't that that's the thing? This is sticking it to Mark Davis. He's getting what he deserves here.
I know, but at the same time, I fully acknowledge that a lot of people disagree with me on this. A big deal of why the Raiders are not in the Bay Area anymore is because of the San Francisco 49ers. And it's not their fault. They're allowed to do whatever the hell they want. They can run their franchise, and they can have all the success and have the popularity of the Raiders so desperately craved. But yes, indirectly, they are the reason why they are gone. So to me, this is weird. And obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs have been so dominant lately, and the Raiders have not. And
Right.
you best believe if the Niners win that Super Bowl, Greg Papa is going to try to burn that mother to the ground.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Which to me, this is very weird for me.
Right.
Because despite all this stuff, my dad will talk a lot of stuff about Raider Nation, blah 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 on the radio. He's a fan. I'm sure they'll embrace him when they see him in Vegas, and he'll be embraced by them. But the reality is, he has beef with Mark Davis. That's what it is. It's not he hates the Raiders or the team. It's him and Mark Davis. That's what it is. So if anybody feels like my dad's going after the Raiders, my dad put like a shirt on or hat on a couple months ago. So he's still a little bit bleed silver and black, but not to the same extent as he used to. No, this is going to be weird, and I understand how Raider fans feel about this. Um, it was weird, when they were playing in Miami, but it feels 10 times more weird now that they're playing in their stadium. So I'll get over it. And this part of me will never die. I still feel a certain way about the Niners, but I've let that go a little bit, Bay Area pride, and then I'll always hate the Chiefs. But hey, they are extremely fun to watch in recent years. So this whole thing's kind of weird to me.
Yeah. But I think what we can all agree on is this Super Bowl does feature the two teams that were probably, I'm not going to say the Chiefs were the most deserving through the regular season, because the Chiefs didn't play up to, their standard. They didn't play up to the Kansas City Chiefs potential. But the way that they've come along this postseason with their receivers actually catching passes, it's crazy to think what would have happened this year had a couple of Mahomes passes gone a different way and not dropped out of the hands of Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Obviously, we saw what happened against Baltimore. But the Chiefs, seems like they're perennial Super Bowl contenders every year as long as Patrick Mahomes is under center. The 49ers, it's been a long time coming, really, ever since that first game of the season against the Steelers, where they kind of get off to a slow start and then just dominate from the second half on, and they've cruised through a lot of their games this year. It feels like these are the two right teams to battle it out. But the Ravens kind of felt like that team, but the fact that the Ravens can't get past the Chiefs, then obviously they're not deserving.
Yeah, we'll talk about it all with the conference championship games. But yeah, man. So this is an interesting Super Bowl matchup. It's
Yeah.
it's a rematch of a couple years ago, and yeah, it's been the teams that have been most consistently competitive in the conference championships. The Niners have been in the last three out of four. The Chiefs have been to 6 straight, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're the cream of the crop. The Chiefs, could have been to 4 consecutive Super Bowls if not for that comeback by the Bengals a couple years ago. So these are the heavy dogs. These are the big boys of the NFL. So let's get right to it, Stephen. From what we watched yesterday, and I didn't forget, I got my chips right here, and I got my hot sauce. I'm only gonna. So here's the deal. I got two to own up to because I lost in our picks for the conference championships. So I'm only gonna do one today because I still feel a little bit phlegmy in the old throat, but I'm gonna get through it. One of them today.
This could probably help, though.
Yeah, I hope so.
Could clear the sinuses.
I hope so, Steven.
Maybe you needed this.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
This
Maybe whatever doctor I go to would prescribe some,
some hot sauce.
yeah, some hot sauce. I was trying to think of the name of the brand. Apollo, yes, the hot ones. The last dab, I forgot what it was.
Yeah.
All right, Steven.
Just take a dab of this. You'll be all cleared up.
Yeah, take 2 dabs of this and call me in the morning.
Mhm.
I went to the athletic club with my little brother to go watch the game, and it was not. Well, let's start with the NFC Championship game. It was not the outcome I was expecting. I did not expecting that high scoring, and I did not expect the dominance of the Lions in the first half, and then the epic comeback of the 49ers in the second half. I think this is a game that we won't forget, especially when you have a ridiculous play like Brandon Ayuk did that I guess is being coined by Greg Papa as as a caller that called in today. He claims that he took it, but he always gets it from fans. The BA ricochet. What do you think of that, Stephen?
Nah, it doesn't roll off the tongue that well.
All right, there you go. See, Stephen doesn't like it. I don't like it either.
I was trying to think of names all day, but just keep it simple. Just keep. I know it's boring, but just keep the series of catches going. Just make this
the catch 4.
Just make it the catch 4.
Yeah, but it wasn't to win the game. That's what those 3
Yeah.
plays
Not
have that have going for it.
and if it was like the Steelers or the Raiders, I'd call it the immaculate deflection.
Yeah, I don't know. Nothing Raider related with this. No.
Right.
Leave it alone.
I
Some
don't wanna
some guy suggested the snatch.
the
Please
snatch?
explain.
The snatch. Mm,
Remember that from the old Dibs and Rocky Bernstein?
I don't like the snatch, but I love the clean
The
and
clean and
jerk.
jerk.
Uh, I don't know, maybe we just take Rob Riggle from The Hangover and just call it in the face, in the face.
Sure.
How about that one?
But yeah, dude, I will say my piece after you get done and I'll get this all ready. But yeah, what'd you think of everything from the Lions' huge lead to the
Wow.
comeback,
Wow.
the NFC Championship game? I think this is one that will stand this I mean, clear answer. This is the biggest game, the best game in Levi's history so far, right?
I'd say so.
Yeah.
I'd say for the 49ers at least, because with what was at stake, this wasn't like that NFC Championship where, Raheem Mostert runs for
No.
200 yards and 4 total touchdowns against the Packers when the quarterback only throws 6 times. No, this was an absolute statement by the 49ers. First half, you're down 24-7. I was just speechless. I was speechless because really the Lions were pushing them around in that first half. It wasn't even like, oh, the Lions are lucky to be up at this by this much. I actually thought, hell, the 49ers were lucky that it was just still 24-7. There was even some meat left on the bone in that first half by the Lions. But the way that they were just controlling the trenches with the offensive line, with the run game, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs were really doing whatever they wanted. Then in the second half, it kind of, I guess, speaks to what I've thought about really this team all season, which is if you give them even 2 to 3 inches of breathing room, they're going to capitalize on it. And I know you're going to have some thoughts on fourth down conversions. Everyone has thoughts on the fourth down plays based on Dan Campbell, which I know we'll get to. But the fact that the Niners can turn it around just like that, it's like it's literally like the Warriors' third quarter. Like there's no other way to describe it. You could be down in the game in the first half by as much as you want, but in the third quarter, we're going to get some of those points back. And instead, they just got everything back, and it just flipped. It just flipped, completely flipped. And as Ray Lewis said, momentum is really real. And the momentum, he said that. I'm pissed off for greatness. Momentum's really real.
I remember that. I remember pissed off for greatness.
Yeah. So that second half, it was just all 49ers. And you could kind of tell, I think it was really by the Brandon Ayuk catch, but I think more so even by the first fourth down that was called, and it was turnover on downs. Okay, this defense is starting to flip a little bit. Jared Goff got hit by Nick Bosa a couple of times. Could be skittish in the pocket, which he was quite a bit in the second half. So just, I can't say enough about the 49ers' resilience. All that stuff I've said about the 0-38 record when trailing by 5 or more points, I don't even care what that record is anymore. That's out the window. The 49ers have proven they could do it this season, and they're on the way to the Super Bowl because of it. So how can you speak at all about this team playing from behind? Now they've proven they can win in really any shape or form. It's not just, we're going to blow you out and we're going to run the ball down your gullet. It's not just, you know what, we're going to play like crap for 3 quarters, actually for 3.5 quarters, and then we're just going to beat you on the final drive and hope for some luck. Like, they have won every single way imaginable now this year, and I think that makes for a much more compelling Super Bowl.
All right, here we go.
The ASMR, man, when you that's a pita chip, not a pop chip. That sound that has the depth of a pita chip.
Yeah, it's a pita chip. So let me just say,
it's
always bad when you swallow.
Yeah. Never swallow.
Yeah, never. Ben Johnson schemed the game of his life in the first half.
Shit.
from the reverses with Jameson Williams. The running game was ridiculous. The passing game was unbelievable too. Like the 3rd and 12 they ran with Jameer Gibbs running to the left. I've seen them do that so many times this year where so many teams just are so threatened by their passing game
Mm-hmm.
that they give them so much space that Jameer Gibbs or David Montgomery are able to just run huge yards on 3rd and long.
Yeah.
So Ben Johnson is going to be a great head coach. I assume he's going to get the Commander's job, but he was like, it was clinic. It was a clinic. He was dissecting Steve Wilkes' defense. And if you were to ask all Niner fans at halftime what their thoughts were at going into the second half, I'm sure all of them would say, well, I want to fire Steve Wilkes right now.
Yep.
They confused the hell out of Brock Purdy. The defense was playing great. And I didn't know how they're going to respond to a 24-7 halftime lead. Now, some people thought that the time to go for 4th down was right before halftime with Dan Campbell to go up 28-7 instead of kicking the field goal. I thought he made the right move, but some people were like, do that before halftime so then you don't have to worry about any, gain of momentum in the second half. But I thought he made the right call. It's the other 4th downs that I'll get to. So with the offense having probably their worst performance of the season in the first half, and also the defense by far having their worst performance in the first half, I thought they were going to lose. Did you think they were going to lose at halftime, Stephen?
Who, the Lions?
No, the Niners.
Oh yeah, I thought the Lions had it in the bag. I didn't think there was any chance the Niners were coming back.
Considering what we saw last week and the inexperience of Brock Purdy and frankly Kyle Shanahan to come back from large deficits, yeah, I thought it was over. So when they came out of halftime and they got the field goal, I was like, all right, this is only a 2-touchdown game, but they got to do something on offense. And also they got to stop the Lions offense as well. And the only thing they could stop the Lions offense at this point is themselves. You and I talked about it on Saturday. Kyle Shanahan's not going to get caught up in this game, but is Dan Campbell going to coach himself and his team out of this game? So 24-10, they're in field goal range again, and Dan Campbell decides to go for it. And I don't hate the first time he went for it because it was a good play call. Josh Reynolds had the ball in his hands and just simply dropped it.
Mm-hmm.
But the alternative is you kick the field goal and you're up 27-10. It's a 3-score game. What I noticed and what Dan Campbell noticed is on that first opening drive, they figured out the defense. That Kyle knew what he was doing in the second half and that Aaron Glenn probably was not going to have an answer for it. So he just wanted his offense to go at the same pace with the Niners offense. So I completely understand that move, but it backfired in his face. And then immediately, once Brandon Ayuk caught that pass on the deflection, defensive pass interference, it was supposed to be, but I guess the flag was never really thrown. It was picked up. That's when momentum shifted. And that's when the Lions couldn't get it back. So after that play's done, then Brandon Ayuk catches the touchdown. Then on the ensuing possession for the Lions, Jameer Gibbs fumbles. And at that point, I thought it was over. I thought the Niners were going to win that game. Once Eric Armstead caused the fumble, recovered it, McCaffrey scores a touchdown, 24-24. Momentum is in their favor. And there's nothing you could do about that. You just got to answer back. And then the Niners take the 27-24 lead. And I don't understand this one for the life of me. The Lions had the opportunity to tie the game up 27-27 in the fourth quarter. And for some inexplicable reason, Dan Campbell wants his team to not have a chance. He wants them to be overly aggressive. Like, this was a regular season game. Okay, I get it to some degree. But even the game against the Cowboys, I thought he fucked his team over. This was in the biggest game of their lives. They haven't been in this game since 1991. You have an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl for the first time in franchise history. At least give your team a chance to stay alive in the game. And as soon as they did not pick up that 4th down, then it was over. And the Niners had the ball, and they went down and scored. And once they went up 34-24, I thought the game was over. So I give all the credit in the world to Kyle Shanahan. He schemed. This was the shining point of his Can you hear my desk bouncing right now?
No.
Okay, I got my someone's doing laundry underneath me, and sometimes it gets noisy.
Nice.
Always fun. Um, Kyle Shanahan had the best. This was the shining moment of his career, I thought, for what everybody criticizes him for originally being known as the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons that blew the 28-3 lead, to the stat that you just said, Stephen, 0-30 when going into the fourth quarter down by 5 or more. He's never had the offense that comes back. It's always the one that builds upon a huge lead. And this was impressive in back-to-back weeks to be down and then to come back. And Brock Purdy, from where he was a week ago, was 10 times better this game. He struggled the first half and then figured it out and used his legs way better than Lamar Jackson did.
Yeah.
So I give kudos to Kyle Shanahan for having a great game plan. I do not blame Ben Johnson for what happened in the second half. I think Dan Campbell coached his team out of success, to be completely honest.
He did royally screw them, but I'll say this just to play devil's advocate, because I don't think anyone would disagree. Like, you're down 27-24. You absolutely take the points and tie the games. It changes the whole complexion. Hell, you even do that when it's 24-7. Hell, I mean, you want to get as many points as possible, or 21-7 rather. You want to get as many points as possible and put them up on the team. But to play devil's advocate, though, Michael Badgley he's been good, but he hasn't kicked much this season, and that's the Lions kicker.
But is that his fault, or is that Dan Campbell's fault for not kicking as many field goals?
Maybe it's Dan Campbell's fault, but I'm just, if this is the team's philosophy and this is what they've done all the time, I kind of think, well, why not just go away from what you know and go with the kicker? But boy, if he brings out the kicker and that doesn't go in and there's a turnover on downs and, it's still 27-24, then I think we're on here talking about, well, why haven't you stuck with what you've done all season and be aggressive? Why change now? So I think hindsight's 2020 when talking about it. Like I'm on the side of, you got to kick the field goal. You got to do it. Trust in your kicker. There's a reason that you pay these guys, but I'm also not fully convinced that a guy like Michael Badgley, who I've seen screw some kicks over for the Chargers, I believe it was the Chargers, with one of his former teams.
Yeah, I believe so too.
I'm not trusting Michael Badgley in that spot, but like they said, you don't leave points on the table. I get it, but those points weren't necessarily on the table. Like, those points were, I think those points were on a really small desk or like a nightstand. Like, a table just acts like that's automatic. It was not a table.
Or a wobbly stool.
A wobbly, exactly. It was a table with one of the legs that's higher than the other. It doesn't have that thing poking out the bottom, so it keeps on shaking every single time.
That was me yesterday at the Athletic Club.
Oh, tough. You got one of those?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesse and I went to a Greek restaurant on Friday night to Opa.
Oh.
And one of the table legs was wobbly, and the waiter's like, Greek trick. And then he puts a napkin under it. I'm like, That's not a Greek trick, man. That's pretty common. I just don't really have the tools to get that done right now. The only napkin I'm using is for this Saganaki that's come out here to the table.
Yeah.
But so I get why everyone thinks that he should have took the field goal. I get it, but I'm just not 100% convinced that Michael Badgley splitting the uprights with it. I'm just not.
I'm not either, and I think a lot of people's hearts sank on the opening drive for the Niners when Jake Moody missed his field goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're totally right, Steven. It wasn't definite that he was going to make those field goals, but at least put him in those situations where you're going to keep your team in the game. I think that he just gets too stubborn and makes dumb mistakes. And I like Dan Campbell, but I also think that there's not much difference between him or Brandon Staley or Nick Sirianni. I'm not saying that he's like a meathead to the same degree as Sirianni, because that's evident now that a year ago you and I were talking about, like, is Sirianni just a meathead? And I was like, maybe not. No, Dan Campbell's a much smarter coach and a better coach than Nick Sirianni. I'll get to Sirianni later on the show, but I know that all these teams looking for a Dan Campbell type, and I understand that. I think that there should be good motivating coaches in this league, but I also don't want coaches that screw your teams out of games. And I think that while Kyle Shanahan was the reason why that team came back in the second half, I think Dan Campbell attributed to it. I don't think there's anything that they could have done defensively to stop them. I think that Kyle just knew what he was doing and scheming it up, and he was great, just as Ben Johnson was great in the first half. But Dan Campbell added to it. There were moments where this game probably could have gone to overtime or could have been closer, and Dan Campbell just screwed his team up. Now, if they make those fourth down calls, we're all praising Dan Campbell for being gutsy. This is the same thing where, years ago, Doug Peterson was praised for his aggressiveness in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. And it just so happened that he got every fourth down call. If he makes those fourth down calls, we're singing Dan Campbell's praises today. That's just the way sports work.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he didn't pick them up makes him look like an idiot today. And he owns it. I respect him in that regard. No one's going to fuck with him because he's huge. But I just think he's got to be more cognizant of that going forward because while this team has a lot of talent, once Ben Johnson leaves, I wonder how they're going to look.
No, I think it's a very fair question. Like the Nick Sirianni thing, I think that's kind of that's kind of jump started that whole conversation about coordinators, where they're keeping them and losing them, how that's going to impact their team. But I think it's different though with the Lions here. I think it's different than those types of situations because it felt like we'll take the Eagles. That's like the number one example. It felt like their team was just in disarray a lot of the season. A lot of them didn't see eye to eye. I don't think that's the case with the Lions coming up in the future. I don't think just because they'll switch coordinators that it's just going to be, oh yeah, they're just going to turn into the Eagles and they're just going to look like a totally different offense. I don't believe that. I think these other players actually believe in each other and they'll bring in a new coordinator that fits what they want to do instead of someone else who's trying to change everything. So I personally think the Lions will, even without Ben Johnson, I think the Lions will be back in NFC contention. Not going to say they're going to be back in the championship, but I fully expect the Lions to be playing in the divisional round in 2025. I fully expect that, even though they're even if they miss a coordinator, Jared Goff really found a home. Look, that team that tore up the 49ers in the first half, that's a team they can be. It's just in the second half, momentum goes one way. Got to give credit to the 49ers because of the way they scored. And I'm not going to treat this like the Packers game where really my overall thought on that Packers game was the Packers lost it because they had plenty of chances to get back into it. The 49ers, like, just straight up, you can't put up 27 points and a half and just say, oh yeah, the other team lost that game. No, but that other team did make a couple of mistakes, AKA not catching the ball off the face mask when that one to Ayuk, like that changed everything. That flipped everything. Not dropping a key fourth down pass like Josh Reynolds did, not dropping interceptions. Like there was a couple of them in the second half. So I think the Lions have all the pieces and all the tools to continue to be in the playoffs. I don't see like an Eagles like decline from them next year.
Yeah, we'll wait and see for that. There's a whole off season to talk about that stuff. But I also think that it was really the 49ers offense in the second half. They came to life and Kyle Shanahan figured it out. The defense, I thought, did not improve from a week ago. It was the same story. Jordan Love had his way against the defense, and then Aaron Jones ran all over him. It was the same case in the first half where Jared Goff played great, and the Lions' running game was just running rampant all over the 49ers defense. And to be completely honest, while they won the game, I don't think the defense really did that much in the second half. I thought that they made one huge play with Eric Armstead getting the strip fumble and recovery. And the rest of it was the Lions' own doing. Now, they did stop them on fourth down. That's a huge deal. But it was the Lions deciding to go for it on fourth down. It was the lack of possessions. So while the 49ers did enough in the second half to prevent them from scoring even more, I think it was more dictated on what the Lions did than what the 49ers did defensively. Nick Bosa had a couple sacks that helped, but I don't think that I think that you come away very impressed with what the Niners did offensively in the second half. But as far as the defense, I think there's still a lot of questions to be answered.
I think so too, and that's what makes this Chiefs matchup so interesting coming to the Super Bowl. It
Mm-hmm.
really it. I know this game is super complicated, and football is there's so many variables to factor in. Like you can never just pinpoint one thing. That's why we talk about football so much, because it's not as simple as baseball, where it's like, well, if this player didn't strike out in this situation, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. Like you can barely boil it down to just one play. But with football rather, sometimes you could boil it. You can make it as simplistic as they just need to catch passes. Maybe that was it this whole season. That's why, I mean, I understand Patrick Mahomes had a career high in interceptions, but
Mm-hmm.
when his players are catching passes, he's not forcing anything, playing with confidence, trusting his receivers. That's a scary offense, man. But it's the same with the 49ers. Same with the 49ers. If Christian McCaffrey gets going, you can't bring him down. They're feeling more confident there. Debo Samuel breaking tackles. Brandon Ayuk coming up with a huge catch and kind of proving that he really is the number one wide receiver on this team. And oh yeah, you get another nice little couple of toe taps in with Kyle Juszczyk on that
How
one
about those? Good
where
Lord.
where Purdy escaped the sack. Like, my God, man. And then somehow Juszczyk has the wherewithal to keep both feet in bounds. It's like anyone wondering what it was like seeing a deep fullback. I'm like, well, you haven't watched Marcel Reese very much, former wide receiver out of
Oh, yeah.
Arkansas before joining the Raiders. He was always running those wheel routes going deep.
Yep.
Seeing Kyle Juszczyk kind of reminded me of him doing that. But look, all their weapons are healthy. God, it was just they were clicking on all cylinders in the second half. And honestly, like I don't know what to say. Like it's no longer to me. Well, if the Chiefs score and they go up by 2 possessions in the first quarter, then the 49ers are in trouble or anything like that. I don't have any questions about it. I really don't know who to pick in this game. Really,
We
that's
got
how
plenty of
good these
time for that.
yeah, that's how good these two teams are. But man, that second half for the 49ers offense, though, like they were just chugging and
Oh, yeah.
chugging and chugging, and and finally took advantage of a defense that really wasn't that good.
No, I mean, they had their effectiveness in the first half, and they were getting, they forced Purdy into that bad interception. But, yeah, I mean, the defense couldn't stop him in the second half. A little cheap shot from C.J. Gardner-Johnson just to hit on Purdy or on Debo when he wasn't looking. I thought that was kind of lame, but they have their history, and they'll play each other next season if C.J. Gardner-Johnson's on the Lions. But yeah, I think the 49ers answered a lot of questions with Brock Purdy, with Kyle Shanahan, and with their offense in general of how they can be a resilient team if they're down. We've seen it 2 weeks in a row now where it wasn't pretty, but they got it done. And I think that speaks more to teams than the ones that just beat up on teams in the playoffs. We're always impressed with the dominant wins, but the resilient teams are the ones that find a way. And I think that's something that was missing from the 49ers from previous playoff runs. You talked about the first NFC Championship game with Kyle Shanahan where they just ran rampant with Raheem Mostert for 4 touchdowns. Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't tested. He threw what, 4 passes in that game?
Right, 6.
And whatever it was, yeah. And then in the Super Bowl, he overthrew Emmanuel Sanders. And this will, as we get more and more to previewing the Super Bowl, we'll ask if Brock Purdy can make that throw to Brandon Ayuk that Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't make to Emmanuel Sanders in that moment. And if we have that moment in that game, that's going to be amazing. It'll be poetic. But I think it speaks to teams' resiliency if they are
Mhm.
tested in the playoffs. So do you think that both of these playoff games bode well for the 49ers' chances in the Super Bowl?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Like that, God, that's hard. That's a hard question to answer because you also got to factor into this too. And actually, I kind of focus on something from the Lions Buccaneers game. It was kind of telling to me. I forgot who was on the sideline doing the sideline report, but it sounded like a real report. No fake news here, Carissa Thompson. But I think that when Aaron Glenn of the Lions said after a Buccaneers I think it was a defensive back. It might have been like, I don't know, it might have been Jamel Dean or something. After he dropped an interception, Aaron Glenn was like screaming at his defense, telling him like, they're scared. This is what happens when teams are scared. And to me, when the Packers and the Lions were making mistakes, I felt like the inexperience started to come into play. And really, even though the Lions are a veteran team and they've been together since this core has been together since 2021, they'd never been on the NFC Championship stage on the road in a raucous environment like Levi's Stadium. Though I'll say Levi's Stadium, there's a pretty good turnout of Lions fans. I was surprised by that. Maybe it's just because of the contrast in colors, because the Lions are just straight light blue and the Niners are full on red, but you could see a lot of Lions fans there. They were young, inexperienced, and they didn't make plays when they needed to. And that right now, what the 49ers did, of course, it bodes well for them in the Super Bowl. Like, they learned that they can win in that way, but they also did it against inexperienced teams that kind of let them back into the game. And I don't know if the Chiefs are that team that's going to do that same thing. But of course, these types of it bodes well for their Super Bowl chances, but does it prepare them for their next opponent? I'm not 100% sure about that.
I think it does in a way, because these comebacks in both of these playoff games remind me very much of the 2019 Chiefs. They were down 24-0 to the Houston Texans and came back and won that divisional playoff game. Then they were down, I think, 10-0 to the Titans in the AFC Championship game, came back and won that game. And then when they were down against the Niners in the Super Bowl, it was nothing. They came back and they won that game easily. So I think it just mentally prepares you for worse circumstances when things get bad. You're like, we've been here before. It's all good. And you don't want to get too comfortable, because I think that's what happened with the Eagles this year. They got way too comfortable for the first 11 weeks of the season, and then things started to blow up. Like, okay, we can't come back now. We don't know what to do. I think this team is mentally tough, and they've seen it now in the postseason, where now if Mahomes gets up on them, okay, they'll figure things out, and now they have a more confident quarterback that they trust. This was a huge thing for Brock Purdy. I think both these games were, that he didn't play his best against Green Bay and still managed to get a drive to win that game. And then down 24-7, the kid was like, all right, let's come back and win this thing. I think that's huge for him, being this young and having the trust of this team around him. They're going to talk it up, from Mahomes being the high draft pick that he was to Mr. Irrelevant. We've heard it a million times already, but it's going to just be a Super Bowl story. This is going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting how Purdy plays in this game, and it doesn't feel the anxiety and the stress just because he's going up against Patrick Mahomes, the best in football.
The belief is there, though. Like, the belief is already there. I don't think the 49ers were ever thinking like they wouldn't be able to come back from 24-7. I think they always had that in the back of their mind. Does it help? Yes. I don't think they want to be in that position in the Super Bowl. Not against the Chiefs. In a neutral site. I don't think they want that. You could bet your ass there's going to be a lot of Chiefs fans going to Vegas. Although tickets right now, you seen ticket prices?
$7,000.
Yeah, and the nosebleeds, about the average is 6.6, $7K. Might have to cop up a few thou, maybe check some scalpers outside of, I don't know, the Mirage or something.
I'm sure Alon's got a ticket.
Yeah.
He's always got connections.
The experience always helps, but I don't know what it would be like if they're down this way against the Chiefs. I think that's just the last thing that they want.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
The experience is great, but do they really want to experience that again? Like I think this matters more for like the regular season, where, all right, we're trying to stack up wins here, but you're not trying to stack up wins. It's do or die. And even though they'll have the belief they could come back from 24-7, if it gets to that in the Super Bowl, like, okay, but this is a Super Bowl. This isn't just.
Well, you don't want that to happen, but at the same time, I would also say I don't think that it's the end of the world. I think that they have the offense that they could do that, but against that Kansas City Chiefs defense, that may be a different story. Because okay, now that I think about it, let's be real. They came back against the Packers defense, which they fired their defensive coordinator, and the Lions defense has been, opportunistic and sack heavy, but they haven't been the greatest pass wise. So easier defenses to come back against. If they do find themselves in a deficit against the Chiefs, it'll be tough, especially with that quarterback, because he's not going to let up.
Yeah. No, not at all. Um, he's a different animal. He's just a winner. They're really like that's the other thing too. It's totally a heavyweight fight here. Where Mahomes is Tom Brady of this era. Ernie 2 asking, happy birthday, by the way, Ernie. 40th birthday bash, celebrating it
Oh, nice.
earlier. Is this Niner roster better than the 2019 team? Well, you got to take Brock Purdy into account, and you got to take Christian McCaffrey into account. Those are two huge changes, but I think we can easily forget how good that offensive line was that the Niners had in 2019. That wide receiver core with Emmanuel Sanders, who came in as a veteran, and Deebo Samuel. Well, I wouldn't say I'd take that receiver core over this one. And you had a young George Kittle, but George Kittle still kind of in his prime, playing at an all-pro level. And the defense, though, I think was a lot better from the 49ers in 2019 than it was this year.
I agree.
But if you're telling me that the two biggest upgrades, Trent Williams is kind of an upgrade too, but Joe Staley was damn good at the position. If you're telling me the two biggest upgrades were Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey, and that's the biggest difference in those two rosters, I'd have to take this roster.
I have more confidence in this roster as far as the quarterback and, yes, McCaffrey. But defensively, they're not the same.
No.
The pass rush was a lot better in 2019, and they had their holes. I mean, that's the reason they lost was in the secondary. And I think Mahomes could go after guys in the secondary again. But it was clear. I don't know if Chase Young has a role on this team after this season. He seemed out of position a lot, and they ran right at him. And they went to Randy Gregory a little bit more in the second half. He did make a play in the second half. He got a tackle, I think, on Jahmyr Gibbs, or whoever the running back was. But I don't know about him going forward on this team.
I don't like. Well, he was only going to stay with this team if he was going to get a big extension. He was a rental.
I know, but I just don't think he fits. I think that he's a freelance pass rusher, and he's not going to follow the scheme of what they want to do.
And there's only so much time you have to try and follow the scheme with what they want to do. But no, he was terrible. Like that effort that he put in on that touchdown from Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, that's the photo that everyone's pinpointing. I don't know. One of the plays I have in my mind too, it was nothing significant. It was, a pretty big run, one where they opened up a hole and, you're just watching the offensive line just dominate. But yeah, one of the things I picture is the guard finding that he's going to, or the guard and the tackle, the left tackle, Penei Sewell, and the left guard were going to double team Young. They were just going to slide the protection over and just completely take the left side of their, well, I guess like the Niners' right side technically, but the Lions' left side, they were going to completely take the other side out of it. And I just remember Chase Young getting double teamed and just completely just blitzed, done. And even though you got to give credit to the offensive line, I'm like, yeah, this isn't working out right now. They're just taking advantage of him. They're just running away from Nick Bosa and then just going to the other side of the line. You can't really afford to do that.
Yeah. No, I think there's still a lot of things to fix with the defense, but they got 2 weeks to figure it out. But everyone's, it was fun today listening to all the Niner fans talk about their experience watching the game, the anxiety they felt. We posed the question to all of them, what'd you feel at halftime? And the majority of people thought it was over. And everybody talks about the excitement they had in the second half and how overjoyed they are today to see this team back in the Super Bowl after what they experienced the last 2 seasons of coming up just so short. But it was funny to me. I went to the bathroom at the athletic club at halftime, and I could hear this Niner fan just being like, Shanahan in this fucking game every year, man. God damn it. What do you think the reaction would have been today if they lost?
Fire everybody.
Mm-hmm. And that's what this has become though a little bit. Like I mean, you still have to say that Kyle Shanahan's a great coach, but maybe he loses 3 NFC championships in a row. So I don't want to go down the road of hypotheticals too much, but it just reminded me that I think fans need to appreciate this guy the same way that I think that they have lost appreciation for Steve Kerr. They all talk about like, oh, what he was so beautiful and speaking to the fans, and honoring Dahan, and then immediately they lose to the Kings, they lose to the Lakers, and now they all hate this guy. And I just can't stand it that it's become this. I think it's the same thing with Niner fans. If they would have lost this game, you would have heard all day long fire Shanahan. And you can't have it both ways. I think you have to appreciate the man for what he's accomplished. And also, yeah, they could lose the Super Bowl too. And I think a lot of people are going to react that way. So just relax, everybody. Like, I think the Bay Area has 3 great head coaches right now. We'll see what happens with Bob Melvin, but I've seen him in the past. I think he's going to do a good job. So I would just say, everybody, like, let's not be so reactionary when things don't go the way that everybody wants it to.
Well, that's how it's going to be, but Shanahan's one of those head coaches that you ride with. Like, he is one of the best coaches in the NFL, and there's no getting around that. And you could be critical. You can absolutely be critical and say, I don't know about this, but having made the NFC Championship in 4 of the last 5 seasons, going to the Super Bowl for the second time, some fans would only dream of that. Yeah. AKA go look at what's happening in Buffalo right now, and Sean McDermott might still be on board after this season. Like, just think about that. Put things into perspective. But that's far for a couple of weeks. Now, actually, maybe it'll change by the time the Super Bowl comes around. Like, is there going to be a win where fans can just sit back and, you know what? We just lost to this guy who's on a journey right now to becoming one of the greatest that we've ever seen. And you just got to tip your cap. Is it ever going to be that? Or do you ever just look at your own team? Because we always do that, though. We never credit the other team. We never say, hey, they did this or that. It's always, well, what did we do wrong? What can we do in order to change everything? And sometimes teams just get beat, and it's like with the Lions. Like, really, you can't control what happens with your coordinators. Those guys are going to get head coaching jobs eventually. But what are you going to do? Just, I don't know, release Josh Reynolds? Is that like the biggest move that they're going to make? No, this is the team that they ride with. They can make some additions here and there. They could definitely improve their team, but there's no significant changes that need to be made. What happened with them was they got beat, and they're going to need to learn from it. And the 49ers, I don't know what the answer is if they do end up losing the Super Bowl, but good God, they have themselves a hell of a staff right now, man. And it's, I was talking to Guru about this earlier, because 95.7 KCBS right next to each other. And it just feels like the Niners, I don't know if you believe in destiny, Derek, but it really feels like this is kind of,
I believe in the pick of destiny.
There you go. I really believe this is kind of their year. Like, just with everything that's been going their way, they're fully healthy, everything that's happened in the past. Like, now, remember what I was asking last week? Like, how do you think 49er fans feel about the fact that, a lot of NFL fans are probably rooting against them? You disagree with that, obviously, but that's fine. It's not that way anymore. I don't think anyone wants the Chiefs and Taylor Swift winning. Taylor Swift a huge part of it.
Everybody needs to realize there's going to be a lot of Taylor Swift. Just get used to it, everybody.
I don't care. Yeah, who cares about that? But for whatever reason, it seems to piss people off. Yeah. And I just think everyone's going to be on the 49ers here. And it just feels like destiny's kind of on their side right now. And this team that has taken their lumps, just taking shot after shot, going down, and they keep on coming back fighting. And now they're in the championship. It's like watching a UFC fighter who's just like, there's levels to it, right, Derek? You get to it, you're unranked first, then you become a top 25 fighter, then you become top 15. You continue to fight those above your weight class, and then you kind of get into the top 5, and that's when you can get those contender shots and all that sort of stuff. And there are guys who get to the top 5 then they lose in that contender fight, then they drop down and they have to go back up and keep fighting. That's what the Niners have done for the past 5 seasons. And now they're back in the Super Bowl in Las Vegas, in the house that Mark Davis built, and you get a chance to win. Like, even if the Chiefs lose in the Raiders building, it's like, well, what the hell, man? Like this Chiefs team is not even good enough to win in our own building when they have the chance. It just feels like everything is coming up 49ers. It's what it feels like
at the moment, but yeah, I mean, I could see it already, like the way that the last 2 playoff games have gone. This is, a good build-up in America's game. Like, you have Kyle talking about, what went wrong in the first half, and the Green Bay game. They'll probably have Kittle in there, whoever they choose for America's game. But yeah, it's been more, interesting on the side of the 49ers playoff run than it has been for the Kansas City Chiefs, because they just have dominated.
right.
But then again, this is a good story. It's a rematch. A lot of Niner fans feel like they should have won the first time they played back in 2019. This was the last sporting event, the real big sporting event we had before things went to shit with COVID. And this is their chance to, okay, well, Jimmy was the quarterback last time. Now we have Brock, who we think is better. Let's see if he can beat Mahomes. And then if they don't beat him, then everybody's gonna be like, well, Kyle can't beat Andy Reid, and this team can't beat Mahomes. We'll see what happens. I don't know. You got a lot of time before this game kicks off, but I think regardless, I think 49 fans should be happy with what they've accomplished this season. Now I know if it ends with them losing the Super Bowl, it's considered disappointment, but I don't know, man. This team has been very resilient, and they've gone through a lot, and to come out with these 2 wins in the playoffs like they did, I think is pretty impressive.
Oh my God, yeah. God, who was saying it earlier? Rex Ryan was making this point on ESPN, and he's like, look, I lost these 2 straight AFC championships. No one gives you anything for losing an AFC championship game. Like, making it to the Super Bowl and losing, okay, you lose, but you made it to the Super Bowl. You made it to the dance. But if you lose in a championship game, no one cares. So it's like, which is why the Eagles were taken as a pretty serious team this season. It's because, they made it to the Super Bowl last year and they haven't done anything different except change some coordinators. They'll be fine. Like, no, they won the championship. That's the reason we held them in such high regard this season, is because they were Super Bowl guys, and now they're not. They lost into the divisional round. It just, I don't know. It all feels kind of like all coming up 49ers. That's all I'm saying.
It's starting to feel that way, but let's see what happens. By the way, did Rex Ryan say, yeah, you don't win anything, and if you lose a AFC championship game, you don't even get a goddamn snack.
No one comes with their feet here and puts them in front of your face. Nothing.
Oh, that's sick, man. Let's switch over to the AFC championship game, and before I do that, I'll just get this out of the way because I feel like I didn't give you guys my money, like your money's worth of me eating the hot sauce before. So here's another one.
Oh, Jesus.
Here we go.
Oh.
Hmm.
Yeah, at what point does this become a punishment or like you just enjoying chips? Like enjoying a snack mid-podcast that you're just crunching right into the microphone with a little tinge.
I'm telling you, I need to upgrade on the hot sauce.
We don't need to upgrade the hot sauce. We need to downgrade to more gross stuff.
Well, you see the one that Alon suggested that I should just rap on this? I should have to do like a freestyle off the dome.
Yeah.
That got me a little bit.
I'm into that.
Steven, hey, I could just show my skills though. Steven, what'd you think of the AFC Championship?
Well, number one, catching passes. Like the Chiefs caught their passes. That's all I could say. Looking at the targets, Travis Kelce, 11 for 11. Rashee Rice, 8 for 9. Valdez Scantling, 2 for 2. Justin Watson, 1 for 2. Isaiah Pacheco was 4 for 4. Noah Gray was 2 for 5, whatever. Then Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 2 for 2. Just go down the list there. Not as many drop passes as you normally see in a football game. But really what I look at this as, that Chiefs defensive line forced Lamar Jackson into God knows what. And Steve Spagnuolo just drew up a masterful game plan to where he even made Lamar scared to run and didn't know when to run. So I give credit a lot to the Chiefs defense, and obviously that punch out. I think it was Ladarius Sneed
Mhm.
who punched it out. Like, just that play alone, that's the type of championship pedigree this team has, and just Mahomes making play after play. But something that struck me, and I should have mentioned this on the pod, but when I saw, like, before the divisional round, that Lamar Jackson is putting a lot of pressure on himself to win the Super Bowl, I remember thinking in my head, I don't know how good that is. It's like, after hearing, rather, how productive that is, because having heard the Niners speak the way they do, not get too high, not get too low, understanding their ultimate goal, but trying to really make it as if they're just doing what they do on a weekly basis, that kind of helps them in the long run. And Jackson wasn't feeling that way. So I think, like, after hearing that, something was going to happen. And what do you know? He pulls out this game where really anyone who's doubted Lamar, well, we always get those topics in the middle of the season when Lamar's killing it. And it's just like, why do people criticize Lamar for what he does? Because, well, he hasn't done it on the big stage. And it's where careers are defined for quarterbacks. And his right now is defined by fantastic in the regular season, MVP like in the regular season, but nothing to show for it in terms of championships.
And that's fair. By the way, my tongue is on fire right now.
Oh, good.
Almost numb. Travis Kelce had an unbelievable game.
Yeah.
A rejuvenation game where we all thought that maybe he's on the downslope of his career, but for him to catch that touchdown against Kyle Hamilton,
Mm.
that set the fucking tone for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And Isaiah Pacheco running the way he did too. The Chiefs out physicaled the Baltimore Ravens. And I thought Lamar Jackson had an amazing play where he eluded the pressure and threw the deep pass to Zay Flowers, which I thought he overthrew, but Zay Flowers came down with it. Great play. Last great play they had on offense, though, because the Chiefs' defense is legit. And while Chris Rose was made fun of for saying this, it's true. They could ride the D to the Super Bowl because it's the best D they've ever had. Um,
Very sturdy D. Very
Sturdy
girthy.
D. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not gonna break, not gonna fold under pressure.
No.
Um, but tenacious even. Um,
Hmm.
the the way that both defenses played in the second half was very good. Michael McDonald, minute by minute. Mike McDonald.
Run a cover two.
I always thought this. Oh no, that's the Jason Bourne. Never mind. But man, if Mahomes keeps Yamo throwing around, I'm a Yamo burn this motherfucker to the ground. Anyway,
Get out that damn package.
Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator, figured things out in the second half. It was impressive that he shut down the Chiefs' offense in the second half, but it was the Chiefs' defense shutting down Lamar. And Lamar struggled. He didn't use his legs, and there weren't lanes for him to run. They were given chances, though. Just like not, it wasn't like while the Lions had self-inflicted wounds for their own doing of going for it, so did the Ravens with two crucial turnovers in the fourth quarter, where you thought Zay Flowers scored that touchdown, and then Ladarius Sneed made that play. It was a great play. Nothing Zay Flowers can do there. He should dive, and it was just a great defensive play. The Lamar Jackson interception was awful, and I liked Isaiah Likely like, hey, I'm open in triple coverage. No, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a bad pass. So I mean, should they have run the ball more? Maybe. They were playing from behind. Mark Andrews was rusty. They weren't in a groove. I mean, for him to come back in that game and Lamar and him to get a connection going again is a lot to ask. They probably should have made Isaiah Likely more of the focus instead of Mark Andrews. Um, no, I thought the Chiefs just played a great defensive game plan and they figured out Lamar and Mahomes and the offense didn't have to do anything in the second half. They rode the D and that's what's put them in this spot right now. And just going back to what you said earlier about Travis Kelsey.
Yeah.
Sorry, Travis Kelsey and Rasheed Rice. It's incredible that defenses know at this point that those are the only two reliable receivers on the offense, but yet they still can't stop them because you don't want to put too much pressure on Mahomes, or you don't want to put too much pressure on those guys, double cover them, and then there's free lanes for Mahomes to run all over the place, and then MVS making the huge catch at the end
Yeah.
to finish the game. So
Yeah.
the Chiefs, with how bad they look towards the end of the regular season, it's kind of like the Warriors. When they just need to come and play in the postseason, they play their best, and they just they got to the point now where we've been there, done that regular season wise. Whatever seed we are, it doesn't matter. We're gonna fuck you up when it comes to playoff time because we are the most tested AFC teams. None of these teams can mess with us. The Buffalo Bills are afraid of us, and the Baltimore Ravens are afraid of us.
I'm back to your Mahomes and Kelsey point. Like, that's the thing that makes them so scary to line up against. You think you may understand what route he's going to run, and based on where he lines up, based on the personnel grouping that's out there, you feel like you understand the route tree. But the thing is Kelsey's route tree with Mahomes is not a tree; it's a forest. Okay, it's a banyan tree. Shout out to Maui. I don't think actually it's over there in Lahaina. I don't think it burned down in the fires. I think it stood tall. The Maui Banyan did, but
Or Kenny Banyan,
who's Kenny Banyan?
the bad comedian from Seinfeld.
Oh, wow, good callback.
Mindy's, Jerry. Mindy's.
Deaf ears. So, falling on deaf ears, Eric. Did I call you Eric?
Snap, snip, snap.
Snip, snap, snip, snap. But he'll just run wherever he wants, basically. If anyone's like watched this, the saga of Kelsey and Mahomes unfold, it's that a lot of times the play that they score on or the play that makes a difference in the game was not something they planned. It's like Kelsey's just given an option. Hey, if you find an opening here, just go here. If there's an opening there, just go here. Like there's no way to stop it because you don't know what's coming. They are not like the defense is not baiting them into making decisions. They are baiting the defense. They are making their own decisions based on what the defense gives them. They truly live by that phrase. We're gonna do what we're gonna take what the defense gives us. Like, no, they just take whatever they want, and you better hope the defense follows along. like they're not even worried about the defense. They're just worried about what they want to do. If they see some green grass, there's some open field. All right, I'm gonna turn and I'm gonna put my foot in the ground. I'm gonna go that way. That's what's scary.
And also, the Baltimore Ravens led the league in sacks this year. So did the Eagles a year ago. The Chiefs are the best team to elude pass rush. Like, how many sacks do they have on Mahomes? Let me look it up real quick. But I mean, I always thought like they had older pass rushers in Kyle Van Noy and
twice. He was sacked twice.
Yeah, and that's it. And Jadeveon Clowney, and both those guys had dumb penalties. Like, while the Baltimore Ravens are, a physically intimidating team, they'll do stupid shit like that. Like, they had so many dumb penalties when they didn't need to do that stuff. And in the moment you're like, what the hell's going on here? And then like you see the replay, like, yeah, that's warranted. I understand that. So, yeah, man, the Chiefs are just the cream of the crop in the AFC. All the other teams, I mean, all of the quarterbacks really pale in comparison to Mahomes. The only one that's really legitimately beat Mahomes is Tom Brady and Joe Burrow. Nobody else can handle this guy right now.
Yeah. And even when Tom Brady did, Mahomes was playing with his third string guard, third string tackle, like backups on backups in that game, if you remember. That's why the defense was able to get all over him, and Todd Bowles was just able to have a field day with blitzes for Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Just because they had no offensive linemen. So it's like you could make the case that as far as like full strength, yeah, Joe Burrow probably the only one to truly beat Mahomes. And I think the 49ers are equipped to do just that. And the Ravens weren't. Like, we never take the season-ending injuries too seriously at the beginning, but one thing that we never really talked about with the Browns was the fact that Nick Chubb got hurt early in the season. Sure, they made it that far, but they really could have used Nick Chubb in the playoffs. I think they would have actually done something against Houston had they had Nick Chubb instead of just throwing it deep with Joe Flacco. The Ravens, he's okay, but all they had was Gus Edwards. You know, J.K. Dobbins got hurt earlier in the year, and they might need to add someone else at running back to try and boost that roster up. I don't know what can be done there. But this time it looks like besides Charles Omenihu, which really stinks seeing that news today that he tore his ACL and he's done. It's like you could have a chance to go up against your former team in the Super Bowl and you're injured. That just stinks for Omenihu, especially with the huge strip sack that he had in this game against the Ravens. That was massive. That's kind of was that what led to like all of the stupid penalties and whatnot? Was that in the first half when all of that happened?
That strip sack, I think it was in the first half. These penalties were
yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the strip sack was in the first half. And that's kind of what sparked everything, where the Ravens defense just kept doing dumb shit.
Yep. No. But yeah, man, that will be something with Lamar going forward. Is I know a lot of people, how come, everybody criticizes Lamar, but you don't criticize the other guys for the same thing. I think you got to put Lamar in the same category as Josh Allen now, as a guy that just doesn't get it done when he needs to at this point. Like, I think that right now the AFC quarterbacks that have kind of proven it are Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow for one season. The rest of the guys can't compete with, Mahomes, and maybe that's just because he is the Brady of this new era of football. I mean, he might be better. He is better, actually. Skill set wise, he is better. Brady has won more, but Mahomes is 10 times the quarterback that Brady was. I think we all can agree on that. Am I wrong there?
No, you're completely right there, man.
Okay. So, yeah, I think it's just right now these are the two best teams in their own conferences, and they've been the most consistently best, or consistently good, I should say, for the last 5 years. AFC, NFC, these are the two best teams that have gone to the conference championships. So I think it's going to be a good matchup. And I think they're both deserving.
How the hell are the Chiefs back here? I know Patrick Mahomes was meant to be great. I knew the trajectory that he was on after winning that first Super Bowl. I understood that, but it's easy to forget that he's like 27, 28 years old. It's not like he's that old.
I know, but these teams are mentally tough and they're prepared. They just know what to do in these situations, whereas these other teams they get scared when they play these teams.
28, dude.
Yeah.
28. And he's been to 6 straight AFC championships, 4 out of the last 5 Super Bowls. Like, what the hell?
Yep. And it's not going to stop. And they're going to improve. Like, they're going to look. I mean, if they win the Super Bowl.
Or 3 of the last 4. Is it 4 of the last 5 or 3 of the last 4? I think it's 4 of the last 5 if you're counting this next one.
4 of the last 5 what?
Super Bowls that he's been to.
Yes.
Oh,
and
God.
He's on a better. I mean, his career has gone faster success-wise than Brady's has. I mean, well, he won 3 Super Bowls right at the bat, so that's not actually accurate. But yeah, this is going to be the norm going forward. And we'll see about Andy Reid. There's some rumors that he may retire after the season. I don't know about that, but because he's making too much good money, doing the nuggies. But let me get some of those nuggies.
Do you chuckle when that commercial comes on?
Absolutely, I do. Andy Reid's hilarious.
Hey man, I don't really. I got tired of those State Farm commercials since Aaron Rodgers was doing the discount and double check every freaking game. But yeah, the Andy Reid nuggies.
Oh yeah,
crack me up, man.
Well, just like the subtleness, like now explain it again with some of those nuggies.
Those nuggies. I'm into that.
By the way, I will admit now, I'm kind of over the BK song.
Oh, you're over it.
It's been a year now. I'm like, all right, there's really nothing new to it now.
No, really.
But I will say
there hasn't been anything new to it at all.
I will say, the IHOP song, not bad.
There's an IHOP song?
Yeah, I can't remember how it goes. It's in that tune.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really catchy to the point where I remember the words.
I'm good.
Is there anything else I wanted to bring up? Oh, just real quick, coaching wise. Kellen Moore going to be the offensive coordinator for the Eagles. Great. Now Sirianni can, talk shit to the fans and look in the camera again and doesn't have to do too much on the sideline.
Yeah, Kellen Moore. I don't really know about Kellen Moore as an OC anymore. Thought he
I
was
don't
good.
either.
Thought he was good at first with the Cowboys. Then he leaves, and Cowboys offense is still chugging along the same way that they always were. It's just except Tony Pollard's worse. Um, what he did with the Chargers, I mean, everyone was hurt, but didn't do much with the Chargers, and now he gets a chance with the Eagles. Good lord, working with Dak, Justin Herbert, and then freaking Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, that offense is going to look different though with him. Like they'll do variations of what they did last year, but they obviously want to do more than just the bare bones shit they did a year ago.
Right.
Um, and then it's sounding like Ben Johnson's in line to get the Commander's job, but it's sounding like Dan Quinn will not get the Seattle job. It's sounding like minute by minute, Mike McDonald, the Ravens defensive coordinator, will be the head coach of the Seahawks. But we'll see what happens with that this week. Do you want to talk about the Warriors game that went down on Saturday night real quick?
Do we have to?
It was a great game. I mean, double overtime, and
It was awesome.
it was incredible. And that's what kicked off the whole weekend. That was fun to watch. And I'm getting into basketball now. It's that time of year now where we get one more NFL game if you don't count the Pro Bowl or even the Senior Bowl, and God knows I don't. But yeah, it was fun to watch Saturday night basketball, and we'll get more of that in the off season. And the Warriors, they just don't have a defense. They didn't have anybody to stop LeBron when he went to the rack. It was a fantastic game to watch. Steph Curry was amazing with 46 points. He did leave a few, on the back rim, not necessarily the best shooting towards the stretch of the end of that game. But great play to, like people want to kill Steve Kerr, but it was a great play call when he got the wide open three that was, dialed up for him to just make that. But yeah, I mean, this team is, I don't know. I don't know where they go. I could see this owner wanting to stand pat, like Evan said. And I know that there was a report that came out today that said that they're looking at shopping Chris Paul and Andrew Wiggins, but let's see what they would get in exchange for that, because I don't know if it would be a lot.
I don't know either, but I don't think I don't think they'd be willing to let go of Chris Paul. Like Steve Kerr spoke too highly of him this year to just let him walk. Like he's been the one of the few things where he's remained consistent, him and Steph really, where he's remained consistent in how he's talked about CP3, which is he's the anchor of that second unit, slows everything down, is a director out there, a floor general, tells guys where they need to be and all that, which is great. I haven't really seen it too much from Chris Paul as of late, but obviously fractured his hand, so we haven't seen anything of him for the past couple of weeks. I don't see that happening. I do see it happening with Wiggins, but God, this game against the Lakers, that was probably Wiggins' best ball game. Dude
Yeah.
was all over the court, like picking up guys all 48 feet. Like, dude, crazy. Excuse me, 92. Did I say 48? What am I thinking? But he picked up everyone full court. It's like, what are we getting in this guy? If they can, it's always like, if we could get this guy consistently, if we get this version of Andrew Wiggins, there's no promise of that. But every single time these little trade rumors comes out that they're going to get it, they're going to trade him, then Wiggins goes along and has a game like he had on Saturday.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know, but these losses are stacking up, and I know Evan talked about, they played the hardest schedule in basketball to this point, and now it should get easier. I just don't know if this team is that good. I think they're just older, and they just
Well, you
can't
can't be
defend.
saying they're just older when the Lakers are 30. Like the Lakers are supposed to be a team that you should beat, really. As far as age, I mean, what are you going to tell me that LeBron and Anthony Davis and
Well, how old's Anthony Davis?
actually he might not be that old.
He's not that old.
Oh my God, he's 3 months younger than I am or older.
Yeah.
Oh,
See?
oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
That one.
Well, how do you think I feel? He's way younger than me. All these fucking guys are.
God.
That's why I'm still holding out hope. Like, thank God Steph, Clay, and Draymond are all older than me. So I'm like, come on, show him you can still do it.
AD is 30.
Yeah.
God. Can you imagine how many Disney Channel original movies he watched? Tons. Big Brink guy.
You think so?
Yeah. Dude, if you ask anyone who's my age, 30 years old, Disney Channel original movies in their prime growing up at this point when in 1993 for those born in the early 90s, early to mid 90s. Anthony Davis, 30.
I remember him. Horse Sense.
More sense. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to it. LeBron James is still 39 years old though, and they don't play that fast. Like I don't think age is an excuse in this one. I think this one just proves they're really just not that good.
That could be the case too. But I'll be watching more closely now because, unfortunately, football is going away minute by until we get the mix of the XFL and USFL, the ex-USFL, whatever the fuck it's called.
I think it's just the USFL, isn't it? Or the USL, isn't it?
I have no idea.
Ooh.
But I'll be watching intently.
Will you?
No. My love for spring football died with the Alliance. That was actually a well-run organization until they folded mid-season.
It's the UFL, excuse me.
The UFL.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well.
I just learned that Peacock has all the WWE matches.
Peacock?
Yeah, all time. All time. So they have literally every Raw, every SmackDown. So I have made it a goal of mine in 2024. New Year's resolution, watch every single wrestling episode from the Attitude Era. So starting at a very specific date, then working my way up.
Isn't all the Raw, or I guess Raw going forward, is going to be on Netflix?
In 2025.
In 2025, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're waiting until next year. So all of it's going to be on Netflix after this year. But yeah, so it's on Peacock. I'm going to make it a point to try and watch all of them from the Attitude Era.
My skin all red? Is that from me just eating the hot sauce? Do I look red to you?
A little bit.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Doesn't look good. I need to hydrate. Well, Steven, anything else you got for tonight?
Been playing. Well, now I've been going full 90s here. I just randomly brought out the N64 when Jesse and I had a couple of beers on Saturday night after the Warrior game, and I kept it out. Been playing Star Fox ever since. Star Fox is fire. Yeah.
I haven't played that in a long time, but
dude,
I wasn't really I didn't have an N64. I was more of a PlayStation guy.
Yeah. N64 was the OG, man. Hell yeah.
Nice.
But I got nothing else.
All right. Well, I think that's a good spot to end tonight.
Yeah.
All right, then.
All right.
We'll be back on Thursday with a whole lot of time to preview the Super Bowl, and I'm sure a lot of things are going to pop up before then, news-wise. Thanks to everybody in the chat tonight. We got the Ernies, AJ Cruz, Otis Bird is the word. Skills come through. Skills congratulated us, I guess, going over 200 episodes.
Yeah.
And Jesse and our guy, Mr. TV, popped in a little earlier, I want to say. Danny Golding, is that his name?
Yeah, Danny Golding. He just comes in, says what's up, and then bounces. Who was the other one? We had a couple tune into our Instagram here.
Oh.
Can't really see the history of it, but shout out to everyone on Instagram too.
Wonderful. All right, then. We'll be back on Thursday to talk about whatever's going on in sports. And, Steven, say what you always say, my friend.
Just our opinion, man.